I removed the cab, as you can see, stripped out the cab and took it off. I've got it set here with all the other sheet metal pieces and hinges that have to do with the cab. And the next step is to strip all the paint off of it, do all the welding on the, finish all the welding and grinding and a little body work, and shoot it with some epoxy primer. Here's my plan for taking the paint off my cab. I've got a 6-inch DA sander here, and I've got 40 grit discs for it. I'm sure a lot of elbow grease will be good for the flatter areas and stuff. I've got electric drill with the wire wheel. I've got some other size wire wheels for some of the crevices. I've also got a 4.5-inch angle grinder with a stripping disc, block sander, another stripping wheel on an electric drill, and I'm just going to get to it and see how this works. All right, I've been working on stripping the paint off of my cab here. I've got the back part done here. I'm using a DA sander with 40 grit. As an experiment, I had some paint stripper up in the cabinet there from, I don't know from what. I put some on a little area in it. It takes off a lot of the bulk of it, a lot less physical labor, but it's nasty smelling stuff. But I bought some more at the hardware store. I didn't get the, the professional grade stuff, which is really caustic and nasty. But I'm gonna give it a try on the roof here, see how it does. I'm gonna put some down and cover it with some plastic sheeting to keep it from evaporating so fast and see what it does. This is the paint stripper I bought. Jasco Premium Paint and Epoxy Remover, about a gallon of it. I'm gonna just brush it on top of the cab, and I'm gonna cover it with some plastic, let it sit for 15 minutes or so and see what it does. This stuff is pretty nasty, so I'm gonna wear my paint mask and also some nitrile gloves and eye protection. And besides the safety equipment I've just mentioned, you're going to need a few other things. I would recommend keeping a bucket of clean water nearby in case you were to splash some in your eyes or got some on your skin. You'd have something available right away to rinse it off. That'll neutralize the stripper. Also, to put it on, have a small container to pour your stripper into to work out of. And I'm going to use a 3-inch chip brush. It's disposable. What they say on the instructions is to brush it on in one direction. Don't keep going over it. Put a coat on and do it all in one direction. Don't go back over it. Just let it work and do its magic. I'm going to, on this next panel here, I'm going to, half of the area I'm going to cover with some plastic. The other half I'll leave exposed and see if there's any benefit to covering it. Now, after the stripper does its work, you're going to need some tools to do the scraping with. I've got just a putty knife here, and I rounded the corners on my belt sander. You don't really have to make it razor sharp or anything. You're really going to be pushing the product off more than scraping into the metal. You don't want to damage the base metal. I've got some wire brushes, a wire wheel on the drill. Be careful with that because it's going to sling the product out, and that'll probably be the most dangerous thing you do. Some other scrapers, whatever you think might be handy, old screwdrivers you can grind up into forms. I plan to use the wire brushes like in the rain gutter, roof gutter, and around the window frames, hard areas to get into. Also have some coarse steel wool in case there's some stubborn areas or little nooks and crannies. You may have to go in after all this is said and done. You're gonna probably hit it with a DA sander to give some texture to the metal so that you can put your primer on. Besides the water bucket, I'm going to keep nearby a spray bottle with water. After you do your scraping, I'm going to gather it up with the excess as much as I can with paper towels, wipe it down, spray water on it. That should neutralize the stripper, and then wipe it down, blow it off with the air hose, and go on from there. All right, thanks. I want to point out that this is the second coat of this paint stripper, and also an important thing, if you have ventilation, that would be a great thing, because this stuff is not good for you. If you don't have ventilation, make sure you're at least wearing a good paint mask. All right, it's been about 15 minutes. I'm going to take that plastic off and we'll scrape it and compare one side to the other. Also, because it's not too bad of a day today, I've got the garage doors open and have some ventilation, so that's why I'm not wearing a mask, so I could talk while we're doing the video. Just kind of pushing it off. If you have to do another coat, that's the way it goes. Keep in mind that this is not aircraft stripper like a professional paint and body shop would use. This is just a paint stripper you'd get from Home Depot. It should be less dangerous. It's not as toxic, and it's not as strong either. So it may take more coats and more elbow grease. Well, I at first thought that it made no difference with whether you covered it or not, but the area that I was testing, as you can see in the middle there, is a big glob of Bondo, so that kind of threw me off. After doing the whole area, though, it did seem a little bit easier on the side that was covered. Not a whole lot, but somewhat. And anyhow, what's left here is Bondo, and it's important, I think, especially if you're using the stripper, you make sure you get all that Bondo out. That's going to have to be ground out. It probably absorbs some of the paint stripper. You certainly don't want that coming up through your new paint. But I'm probably going to use the DA sander and get the rest of that off with the DA sander instead of going with the stripper. But this is the method I'm probably going to do on the whole truck. Seems to work pretty good. So there'll be the next week or so, I think I'll be working on this, and it's just more of the same. I appreciate everybody watching, and please subscribe if you like, and comment. I really do appreciate the comments, and have a nice day.